Coming up on this episode of Stay on Track. I don't know how these guys drive at the moment. They've got so much to do.
If you want to have an issue with the driver, pop down to his garage after the race and have a word.
Patrick Head said to me when I came in, he said, well, what do you think? I said, it's brilliant. And he said, we were hoping you'd be rather more critical. Jean Todt said, come and have a word, and we'll talk about it loosely.
Yeah.
And he said, you'd have to be number two to Michael.
We had to work out what was going on underneath us. But I understand why he came up to me. In the way that he did. Do I regret saying what I said? No, I don't. Well, hi everybody. It's another podcast.
Number 2.
We're going to be doing number 2. Yeah, Stay on Track.
We're getting good at this.
Yeah, well, we're getting there. And one thing from the end of last time, you said about Niki Lauda in 1996 in Brazil.
Oh gosh, right, okay.
Brought something with me.
Oh, Niki.
Look at that little Niki helmet there. You drove like a god. There you go.
He didn't really say it with a kind of Romford accent, though.
No, I didn't. No, go on then, try it. You do it yourself.
With boats like this, accent. I do a little bit of Niki Lauda. Is that any good?
That's not bad.
Maybe we can get some feedback on that one.
Yes, I think we should try. Yes. So anyway, there you go.
But thank you very much. Yeah, so you're not giving this, but
no, I'm not.
We will refer to Niki. Niki is looking longingly at those biscuits. I can see that. But we'll get his comments later, maybe in the podcast. We'll see what he thinks.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
We mustn't take his name in vain, though. Of course, he's much revered and, of course, respected individual. Absolutely. Much missed.
Good.
Right. Thank you, Niki. Well, we've got movement in the championship.
We have indeed.
In a most humongous way towards Lando.
Yeah.
He gained 23 points on Oscar, who had another mare.
Yes, he did. But it's Lando who just seems to have this ability now to be able to produce the goods when it comes down to qualifying and then in the race itself. And it's become easy for him, hasn't it? And I think that's where Oscar now is under pressure because he's now seen Lando raise his game and he doesn't know what to do. He can't work it out at the moment.
I always used to think that Lando, they were always very, very close in qualifying, typically. Although, of course, the first season, Lando had the edge and he was sort of teaching Oscar the ropes a little bit at McLaren. And then there was a very narrow gap in qualifying. There was nothing more than 1,000th or something between them. And then, but in races, I always thought Lando was quicker.
Yeah.
And so I think what we've seen now is him translate his pace, his race pace, into his qualifying pace now. And there's the gap between them in qualifying he's definitely improved his performance in qualifying. One of the things he's done is he's stopped doing the update on the dashboard. Yes. So he's taken away the delta to his best lap. So he's not getting information as he goes through the sections on whether he's up or down, because that changes your state of mind.
It does. And I did something very, very similar. Didn't have it on the dash back in the days of Formula 3000. I had it on a board. It had my position and it had the lap time I had done the lap before. And I found it was making me make more mistakes because I was seeing a time that then I was trying to improve upon.
Yeah, of course.
So I tried too hard. So I decided, and I remember before I had my accident at Brands Hatch, I said, take off all the times. I don't want to see the times in qualifying. Show me a position. That's all I want to see. And from that, because there were two qualifying sections, and I was a second quicker than everybody else in my section, just because my mind was set purely on feeling everything around me. So I do understand that can be a very, very powerful tool. Not everybody can do that. Nico Rosberg, I think, was very much needing that in the cockpit with him on the dashboard, and he was able to get the very, very best out of himself that way. So everybody's very, very different, but it's fascinating to see, as you say, the jump in performance in qualifying purely because he's just enjoying it. I think that's what it is, isn't it? It's enjoying it in that moment, and he's actually getting the time from it. Brilliant.
You notice I'm not interrupting you, and
that's very good. It's a good start.
I think after the first episode, I realised I thought I was interfering with your conversation.
I think it went both ways.
But anyway, so that was a brilliant piece of recounting of, or summary, if you like, of what it is, what goes on in a driver's mind. And of course, these little bits of information.
Yeah.
I don't know how these guys drive at the moment. They've got so much to do. We've got blooming every corner. They've got to change the brake balance or the diff setting or something like that. I mean, I do think there's something in reducing the amount of workload they have, and how much time they'd get from reducing distractions. But anyway, that's apparently what Lando's done is reduce some of the distractions. But it's not just distractions in the cockpit. It's in its life as well.
I think it's brain capacity as well. If you're full up of information, you can't squeeze anything else in. So you literally either fall apart or you just can't go any quicker. But if you get rid of some of that useless information that's there, the lap time and the split that you did the lap before, you get rid of that, I think actually you can be much more active at doing the job that you need to be doing in the car itself.
You've reminded me of something that happened when I was in F3. You learn off other drivers who come along, and you're kind of always looking around to try and glean more information about how they operate, professional drivers. And we were going to Macau in Formula 3. The guy who was going to be fronting the charge was Jan Lammers, who was at the time, he's a very prolific driver and a very successful driver. Yeah. And he won Le Mans with Jaguar, and he had loads of experience. So I was sort of hanging on in every word when we went testing at Snetterton. Yeah. And he turned up, and he tested the car. He was really quick. And I remember at the end of it, they said, we could put in a different differential if you want. We could try that. He said, no, I'm happy with that. They said, you don't want to try it? We could just change it. And in those days, they'd have to dismantle the whole blooming thing. Now they can do it on a switch, but they're doing it all the time. Mm-hmm. But he said, no, because it's like having a watch. He says, if you've got one watch, you know what the time is. And if you've got two, you don't know which one's right. And I thought that was such a genius bit of insight. Yeah. And I think that if you've got too many options, and too much fiddly diddly, with this, you can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You can spend all your time being distracted by all these options. Yes. And if you just got rid of them, like Lando appears to have done, you can get on back to the bit you do well, which is just driving. Yeah. And the very, very, I think anyway, the best driver we've got on the circuit at the moment, Max, had exactly that same problem in qualifying. Yeah. They've got so much information that they can try and get the car as good as they possibly can. But they made a disaster of it, and then they were able to change it for Sunday, and then suddenly they made the car come alive. So you're right, there is so much, or there's too much information sometimes, and to get it right is way harder in many respects now because you've got so much more. How much data did we have? Probably had a meg, maybe, of data. That's all we had, and about 3 squiggly lines. That's all we had. Now, who was Meg? Mega. Sorry, megabytes. Oh, I thought it was a woman called Meg. No, definitely not. No. We didn't have that. Get on with it. You didn't have any Megs? No, we didn't have gigabytes or whatever they are. Now. But anyway, it's important for the engineers to get all this stuff, and it's helpful. But it's like I do think he's cleared the decks, Lando, and in some ways also when we saw it with Max in the race, is that when it's all turned to poo, and you've got nothing to lose, you can drive more freely. Yes. And I'm sure you've experienced it. Yes, when you've been knocked off or whatever, you started and you're coming back. Yeah. Well, in the Formula Ford Festival. Formula Ford Festival. Yeah. The best thing you can do is crash early and put yourself at the back. You're right. You're free. You're absolutely right. Anyway, those people who don't know what we're talking about, we're talking about Johnny Incredible. We'll mention this every single episode, I think, but he won from the back. From dead last at the Formula Ford Festival in 1803. Long time ago. Yeah. Exactly that. Yes. And one thing with Lando as well, I would say, I think he's matured a lot this season. And I think that's something that has made a big, big difference as well. You remember the laughy, jokey, squeaky over the radio, and it was all sort of energy that was being external of the cockpit. I think he's harnessed all that, and he's using all that energy in the cockpit mentally at the same time. And I think that's just a maturity coming into play. And I think it's coming at a very, very good time. If I might quote the Times, go on. And also I should credit Molly Hudson, but Lando is asked something to do with, what he's done differently, because he clearly has stepped up. Yeah. as much as Oscar is kind of seems like he's being dragged down by the weight of it all. Anyway, for Norris, the transformation has been as much off the track as on it. I care a lot about how I'm portrayed and things in the media, and I probably cared too much, even at the beginning of the year, he said. It probably was affecting me in not the best ways. I just learned how to deal with those things better. Now, that, I think, is also a hugely important development for him, because you cannot afford to be blown about by the winds, which is very easy to do. And us guys in the media now, because we're not drivers anymore.
Definitely not.
And
far too old.
What we say
certainly.
And what is said to them, and it all feeds back. And I think it's very difficult to keep a clear mind. So he seems to have got a handle on what it's all about, to be racing for a world championship, which is different to just racing and winning.
Absolutely.
And he's definitely got the package. We'll see. We've got some other races coming up, but at the moment the advantage is in Lando's hands, I think, and mentally as well as anything else. Speed's back. And
No, it's perfect. And I think, to me, just to add a little bit to that little comment that you've just read out, it's almost to a point where he understands he can't please everybody. Not everybody's going to like you. You're always going to get those negativity. No, they don't. Oh, definitely don't.
Not.
No, they don't.
Come think.
There are a lot of negativities that you get out there, but you've just got to back those away. You've got to ignore all that negativity that is there. But if you're engrossed in it, and I think he did a lot of stuff on social media, for example.
He was very good.
Feel that. He was very, very good.
Very good. And he's quirky, and it's hugely popular because of it.
No, sure. But I think it saps a hell of a lot of energy out of you. Plus, you have those negative things that you probably say, "Oh well, I won't take that on board," but you do.
Johnny, this is work. I mean, we like to think that Formula One is a lot of fun, and it can be a lot of fun, and it's brilliant to be a Formula One driver, and you get all these benefits, and if things are going well, it's terrific. You can have a lot of fun. But the World Championship is work. You have to knuckle down. It will not come to you unless you focus. I mean, Max is an example of that. I mean, he's not prone to larking about, is he?
Yeah.
Just for the hell of it.
Sure.
So anyway,
here's the thing. Then, is the title race over? No.
Well, there's differing opinions on that. I mean, I think Helmut said that we're out of it.
Yeah.
But then people who sneakily think we've got a chance always say that. Because they want to disarm the opposition. They want them to,
Max was saying about 5 or 6 races ago, I'm never going to win a race this year.
Yeah.
And then he went on that run. So, yes, you're absolutely right. You can't rule them out.
No. Well, the one thing you can be absolutely certain of is that Red Bull and Max Verstappen will never leave anything on the table to win a race or win a championship. They will be there, giving it 100 million %.
Yeah.
And so, don't ever count them out. But it is a tall order for them. It's taller for them, but it is still a pretty tall order for Oscar.
Yeah. But Max could play a pivotal part in this championship as well. He's going to be in the mix all the way to the end of that very last race or that very last lap. And he's going to be a big, big threat. Maybe not for the championship, but he's going to be a big threat at certain races as well. And I think that's something as well you've got to be able to deal with as well. And that goes with Lando and with Oscar, because Oscar, he's not out of it. He can bounce back for sure, because we saw he had a 33-point or whatever it was lead not that long ago, and how quickly that swapped around.
So
there's a lot of things that can still change.
Well, I mean, the maths everyone can tell you is, if Lando finishes second to Oscar and he wins it, it's a bit like Piquet and Mansell. Nelson finished second to Mansell, but in those days they dropped races, so they had to drop some of the best scores, and Nigel had to drop some of his scores, which put him behind Nelson, and Nelson won the championship, sort of by coming second. But anyway, there is definitely still plenty of opportunity for one of these guys to drop a big score. I mean,
still.
Did you go to the Vegas race? I mean, that's a tricky old track.
Very.
And, getting all the cars around turn 1 and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, lots of jeopardy out there for Lando. And it's only, but he can finish second and become world champion if Oscar wins everything. But I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
I think that there's a good chance, there's still a chance that Lando could drop an entire 25-pointer.
Absolutely.
To Oscar and back again.
We've mentioned Max. He's going to be in the mix. Antonelli, George, they can be in the mix at the same time. So this is what I mean. There's a lot of sort of stuff that you cannot control. You've just got to focus on the job that you're doing. And at the moment, Lando just has the right mentality.
Yeah.
Because the starts were an issue, weren't they?
Got that beautifully. He's fixed that.
Well, Mexico.
Twice,
fixed.
3 times now?
Yeah, it's twice now. I think it's twice. It's twice on the trot. And they've been not just okay.
No, they've been really good.
Been really, really good as well. So all the ingredients are coming together. But we're going to Vegas next, and you've got to still worry about the Mercedes as well.
I mean, you're talking about Mercedes, but you're talking about Max now, and then you're talking about Ferrari as well, because don't forget, Charles can, prop it up there as well.
They've been okay.
I'm not saying Lewis can't, but he could, you got, so the dominance they had at the start of the season now, that has gone. They are being nibbled at by these other teams. And so that, you're right to say, is you only need one little slip up in quali and you're down in 5th place. Yeah. I mean, was it the quickest or the closest top 10 grid ever in the history I heard?
Yeah.
So the margins in the qualifying can be very, very damaging. So there's a lot of jeopardy out there for the McLaren drivers, both of them really. They're under attack from all the others, which is good.
Yeah,
great.
Absolutely.
We like
that. And they're under attack from Max, obviously. What a drive. Hey, in Brazil, what a drive. And what was the comment you said? You described Max's drive as Senna-like.
It was.
It was.
Don't you think?
Yeah, totally so. Yes.
I mean, he just scythed his way through.
Yeah.
And was phenomenal and on the limit the whole way through. And I think what a place to do it. I mean, I mentioned Senna.
Lewis did it in Hungary in 2024, was it? 2024? Yeah, 2014. So he did the same thing, got on the podium from McLaren. Yeah.
But, it was decisive. Every move's decisive. The pace is there, the commitment's there. And
it's great to watch.
And the fight.
As well.
It is great to watch. So well done, Max.
Yes.
I'm sure he wants to win, but he put on a good show from the back there. And some good overtakes. But if we're talking about overtakes, do you think we should touch on the one that happened that was damaging to...
Yes.
Now, as ex-drivers and ex-steward, we're both ex-stewards, but you did more than I did.
I did more than you, yeah.
So this penalty thing, some people are really against penalising and making too many rules about overtaking. Where are we at with our sport?
Well, again, when I did the stewarding, we have the guidelines, and the guidelines are what the team and the drivers sit down and discuss. Gary Connolly is one of those. I know he's very, very involved with that side of it, of what they want us as stewards or want the stewards to look at during a race. So it's a guideline of overtaking or whatever it may be during the race. I never liked it, because I thought, why are we making up rules for racing when a driver, especially a Formula One driver, are the very, very, very best? And you know very well, we have a very good spatial awareness. We're very aware of what's going on. Why do we need a rule to say, oh, well, if you're not quite far enough up the inside, that's not your corner anymore? And then my issue is, let's do Brazil. So I'm going to go in the cockpits of both drivers. So I'm with Kimi. So Kimi launches, lights go out, away he goes. And within 5 meters, if you've got a good or bad start or an okay start. Mm-hmm. And once it's not quite as good as I thought, because you can see he'd seen Lando pull away. You look in your mirrors, and some people say, well, you can't see anything in the mirrors. You can't see everything, but it gives you a very good idea.
Someone's there.
Someone's there. Or if they've suddenly got a good start. And actually, Oscar had a good start.
Yeah.
So did Charles on the other side. So they both were actually swamping him from that point of view. So he looked on his left, so we can see him actually look. So he's aware that Oscar's actually making that move up the inside. And then when you get to just before the breaking point, they're sort of not quite level, but I think he's very close to that mirror. So Kimi's very aware that he's doing it. Oscar's aware that, right, I've got an opportunity at this one. So you're always aware of what is going to be happening when you get to that apex of that corner. And this is another thing I don't like about the guidelines as well, because the apex is not really the overtake. The overtake is done before you get there. That's almost like a dive bomb to get to the apex. And I hate it where it's always fixed on the apex. Anyway, so Oscar thinks he's up the inside. Me then stepping out as a racing driver, and I go into Kimi's car, I'm aware that he's there. And I know that when I get to that corner, if I cut it, there's a very good chance that I'm probably going to make contact. So I try and give a little bit of space. But I'm also aware that Charlie's on the outside, but he's aware as well.
But there was quite a large gap to Charles on the outside.
He was quite wide, wasn't he?
It's quite, but as you say, your racing driver's job is to make it difficult for the person trying to overtake you.
Guideline doesn't do that.
But I think Kimi was too tight on. I don't think he gave him enough room.
No,
honestly,
no.
But if you go by the regulations and the guidelines, Oscar wasn't far enough according to these new rules, whereby you have to be. Is it the front wheels have to be alongside
the mirror? Yeah,
the mirror on the racing of the car.
At the apex.
By the apex.
By the apex.
Well, they were a long way from the apex.
They're a long way from the apex. But you know that's not where the overtake is done. That's the final part. The actual overtake is done before that. And I'll just throw this one in quickly, Damon. You can step in as well when I do eventually shut up. I know there's a car there.
Great.
I don't know where he is. Yeah. I'm trying very hard to be great.
No, but it's a lot. I think for people listening, they want to know that there's going to be a race, and they don't want it to be not permitted. They don't want a rule to say you can't overtake. You've got to be able to have a go.
Yes, and that's not doing that at the moment. It's not working for that.
Well, because drivers are trying to work to the regulations.
Exactly.
So in other words, they're saying, if I can just get my wheel alongside there to the mirror, then if we both crash, it's not my fault.
No,
well, that's
not my fault. No.
Well, what's the point of that?
Yes.
And if you didn't have any rules, then you wouldn't be thinking that at all. You were just thinking, I want to get past and I don't want to crash. I don't want to crash it. Might put both of us out the race. That's an error. Everyone's error.
Yeah.
So there is the argument at the moment, the big discussion is whether these regulations about overtaking are just overcomplicating things and also motivating.
They're the very best with the best judgments and the best awareness and the best understanding.
Because they keep crashing into each other.
We're not only crashing because of the guidelines. But only because we crash into each other through our racing careers, and it does happen. You try and not put yourself in that position. But my problem is with Brazil. Kimi would have known, well, I think I'm far enough ahead. And Oscar's thinking, I'm enough up the inside. What does that create? Well, it creates a crash. Because they're thinking, because of the guideline, that I'm in the right position, so it's my corner. No, you have to earn the corner. You don't earn it through wording. You earn it through being in the right place.
I've just rewound. That was the sound of rewinding going on.
It was really bad. But
it was really bad.
Good effort.
We're going back to Singapore?
Yep.
In Singapore, Lando tries to go down the inside of Oscar. Mm-hmm. Doesn't quite, it's not a very tidy job. He biffs into Oscar and Oscar is disadvantaged by it. And then nothing happened about it. So.
But was that racing?
Was
that racing? That.
Yeah, it was racing. It was racing, but someone had to deem whether or not someone's at an error. So they had internal discussions, if my memory is correct, at McLaren, and they decided, that's very naughty. But Oscar will say, well, that wasn't really penalising Lando. He wasn't penalised for knocking into him. The difference between that situation and this situation. So I think what I'm saying is I think Oscar's slightly frustrated about the way things
the situation.
And he may be justified in being frustrated by what happened, getting a 10-second penalty for the incident in Sao Paulo. But I think the difference between this one was another guy, sort of innocently, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, was put out of the race.
Sure.
So that what Oscar did had a pretty serious consequence for another competitor.
Yeah, but that's racing, Damon. Sometimes it happens like that. And I don't think you can then add these rules to try and stop it, because clearly it still doesn't stop it anyway. But then there's the blame game that goes on. The interesting thing with that is Charles said, well, it wasn't fully Oscar's fault. So that's Charles, who's the guy that's actually gone out of the race. Yeah. So even another driver is looking upon what we're discussing and going, well, it wasn't fully Oscar's fault. It was Kimi, because Kimi didn't give him enough room. So they were both at fault. The other issue that I had as well is the steward said about the lockup. And the lockup is then where you're out of control. But it was a split second of lockup. Now, are you out of control when you do a little lockup like that?
Well, I would say, well, the way I interpreted that was he realised at some point they were going to crash unless Antonelli gave him some more room, or he could slow the car down enough and get out of the situation. So that's why he was locking up, is because he realised that. Well, I think that's kind of admission of guilt in that he realised it's going wrong, and I need to change my decision here. I need to brake harder and pull out of the.
But that's only because you're seeing the gap get smaller and smaller and smaller. He's not going to give me space. He's not going to give me space. How do I get out of it? Can he vanish? Can he push a button and vanish? No, you can't.
No. So, but I don't know. I can't imagine how they see anything out of the cars they're in at the moment. They've got they're so swamped inside the car.
They are. But they're still aware of what's around them.
But, Max used to apply this rule because there was a consequence of this mirror rule thing, which wasn't properly thought out, whereby if somebody is... if you get to the apex first and the person is, so you've got a car, you're approaching a corner, a bit like in Sao Paulo where you've got, let's say Kimi is slightly ahead. So the car on the outside is slightly ahead and the guy on the inside is gone for the gap. If the guy on the outside manages to hold it to the apex long enough, but the guy on the inside has got his wheel slightly ahead, he can run him off the road. Now, I think they might have changed that regulation. But anyway, so what I'm saying is that people play to the regulations. So it's changing the way they go about driving so that they're within the rules. Yeah. And, of course, you have to ask the question then, or you want to ask the question, well, if there were no rules about overtaking, how would you drive?
Well,
what would you do? You'd
be smarter. You wouldn't put yourself in a position where potentially you're going to either hit another car. And that's why I say with Kimi could have given him a little bit more breathing space. Now, would he have lost that position? And is that fair that he's given up that position? And I remember James Hunt telling me many, many years ago, bless him, that there are occasions you have to give up
a corner.
Yeah. And that's the smart part of it. Okay, so that's where it's different. Different.
And the other thing is, in James Hunt's day, it was lethal.
Sure.
People didn't typically bash into each other. I mean, famously, there was the Arnaud Villeneuve-Dijon race where they did bash into each other. But then I would argue that because they had ground effect cars and they basically, there was no way of interlocking, you could kind of nerf each other. So they were nerfing, which is a good old race. Yeah. I remember my dad using that phrase. Anyway, nerfing. And I hope he's not rude. It's probably anyway.
No, I don't.
We'll get that checked.
It's not much. Yeah.
But anyway,
it's too late.
But the fans love it. Of course they do. It's wild. It's crazy. It's exciting. And I think you could argue that. And if there's no complaint from the driver, then maybe there's no complaint to investigate. You could have a situation.
No, but they do complain sometimes.
Well, they always complain because they know it's going to have an effect on them.
Because they know exactly.
So they're pleading.
That's my problem. If you want to have an issue with the driver, pop down to his garage after the race and have a word. That's the best way of sorting it out, rather than saying, "Oh, well, the rule says this, and it's this and that and the other. You shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that." No. Together, I think the drivers should sort it out. I
think having a word is a good idea.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say that is because I offended a driver once in qualifying run in the French Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And I was on a really hot lap. Okay. and I could see this guy was about to start and he was turning in and then I thought, no, mate, I'm coming through. I need that. I need you not to do that.
Yeah.
And I just biffed him slightly as I went past. Anyway. And then I outbraked myself from the last corner. I missed the pedal, but I managed to get through and I beat Alain Prost for pole position in the French Grand Prix.
Did you lose the pole because you
No, nothing was mentioned.
There you see.
So in the excitement of my pole position, I'd completely forgotten about hitting the guy. It wasn't hard, but I did hit him. And anyway, we're qualifying in Germany at the Hockenheimring, and I come up against behind this guy, not expecting anything to happen. And I'm going to go into the Sachs curve, so you come through into the stadium.
Yeah.
And then he just started moving across, and he kept on moving across, and he kept on moving across. And there's a point where I'm just going, what are you doing? Man's completely mad. Anyway, I won't embarrass him by mentioning his name. He's not around anymore. But basically it was revenge for what I'd done. And when I went and spoke to him afterwards, I said, what the hell? Yeah, crazy. He said, you said, you never said sorry. All I had to do was say sorry.
Say sorry. You were absolutely
but
fine.
I was in the gravel.
Wow.
Anyway. So,
yeah.
So you do people, best best served a dish best served up cold, is it? Revenge?
Yeah.
Well, he did that.
Well, that's classed as being dangerous now, if he did that.
Well,
isn't
but I don't think,
that's very different because it's a judgment he was making with you.
And it's just between us.
Yes, it was just between us.
But I still had to explain why I was in the gravel to Williams. But I think that I do. Anyway, I don't know what to say because I think you can't go around the place knocking people off the track.
No.
And so there needs to be some regulation.
Yeah, but we don't go there going, I'm going to smash him out of the way,
this is the steward.
That. Drivers don't do that.
I mean, contact has become, I don't know where it started. I mean, there was, because the cars are a bit more robust now, they kind of get away with bashing into it. But how many times do you see a race ruined because you've damaged the front wing end plate or whatever it is?
Yes, sure.
And you just go, it's very difficult. These cars are huge and they've got lots of sticky out bits, particularly the front wings.
Yeah.
And so to get a clean pass on a car is really difficult. You have to be really committed to get the whole thing through, and the guy know you're there and give you room if you're talking about going down the inside. And I think that we have to know whether there's a sport element to it. The whole reason they had driver stewards in John Todd started this. Yeah. So I actually went and saw him in Paris about this, and he was talking about driver stewards and he was going to get them. And I thought it's a great idea. Yeah. When I turned up to do my stewarding in Monaco, I had to become a FIA steward. And that wasn't my original understanding. My original understanding was you have stewards, but they're not racing drivers. So the criticism was they were making decisions that they didn't have experience of being out on the car. They needed a little bit more insight.
Yes. So
my understanding would be that the driver steward would be just an advisor to those stewards.
Yes.
And they get a situation like turn one in Brazil. Yeah. We haven't got past turn one in Brazil yet.
No,
so I'm a bit worried about it.
Anyway, we're still on the entry.
We're just getting past the restart. But anyway, we're not staying on. Are we staying on track? Anyway, we're nearly there. But we're getting to it. I'll finish my point. My point basically was in that situation, let's say the stewards would have gone, I don't know, maybe was that bad driving? And they'd ask Johnny Herbert and they'd say, what do you think? And you'd say, my opinion, that's just racing.
That's racing. Yeah.
Okay. There's nothing in the regs. They don't have to do anything. No. They could throw the book or something, but then,
guidelines are only guidelines. Not actual. It's not a rule. It's not something we have to do, but it's what the teams and the drivers want us to look at. And those guidelines are there for the stewards to be able to look. Well, that's what they want us to look at. Okay, right. We apply a penalty for that. It's the consistency that is always there. Beef. And that's where the guidelines is trying to help that. But I still don't think it's really allowing the racing to be as pure as it should be. Here's the thing. So he got a 10-second penalty. Was it a racing incident or was it fair that it was a 10-second penalty? What do you think?
I think it was a racing incident.
Yeah.
I think on balance, sometimes you're Charles Leclerc on the outside, unluckily gets hit by something. Yep. Because once you start trying to make these rules, you open a huge can of worms.
You do. Yeah.
And I do think there needs to be a way of saying we're not allowing bad driving standards. We've got to somehow contain people who are abusing the sport, let's say, by driving too aggressively or dangerously or whatever. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where the penalty points come in. That's where the having your license endorsed.
I think that is definitely worthwhile. Yeah, for sure. Makes you think.
The only good thing, if there is a good thing, I would say coming up with a 10-second penalty that is applied during the race. So you had the statement that went up on the screen a moment ago where it shows the FIA. When you see it on television, you'll see the FIA are investigating. So during a race, they've got a massive workload. They've got to run it. They've got to look after a motor race, and then they've got to have it's been referred to the stewards, and the stewards have to review it. Yeah. But you don't want a result that is delayed until after the race.
No.
So I think if you're going to do something like that, getting it done during the race is the best way, so that people don't have to unravel the results, 24 hours later, because that's bad for the sport. So I'm not in favour. I'm not against that, but I wonder whether the right way to do it is to have just the endorsement. Either that or make the drivers pay for the damage.
It's one way of
What
doing
do you think
it.
of
That
that?
always hurts them. It always
That
hurts
might
them,
stop
it does.
quite a lot of crashes.
Yes, yeah, I think so. Anyway, the guidelines, I've never been a fan of the guidelines. I don't like the guidelines because I think the guys that are on that grid have earned their place, and they are the very, very best at what they do. We don't need to have external influences coming in to tell them how they should or shouldn't race, and then using it, like you said, using it to their advantage.
Well, I think we've done this to death.
Yes, we have.
Johnny,
yes.
I might have a biscuit. My tea's gone cold.
Yeah, I know. I think it is. Can we get another one? Can we get another cup of tea? Cup of tea?
That would be good.
Okay, let's get one.
I need refreshing.
So do I.
Okay, Johnny. What about Ferrari? What can we say about that? Because
what can we say?
Because it's been a bit of an up and down season, and we got some sort of hints that the drivers are massively frustrated. And of course, Lewis is struggling manfully along with just like never-ending abuse. It seems to me, he gets penalties for doing. Yeah, I mean, it's just honestly, he's living a mare at the moment.
Yeah, very critical of himself as well.
And they've had issues to do with their car, of course. But John Elkann, who is basically the head of Ferrari, he's the president or the chairman. It depends on which article you read. But he said of them recently that the drivers should focus on driving and talk less. Now, that's caused a little bit of feathers being ruffled. But of course, the drivers have, Lewis has responded and said he'll always, give it 100%. So they're trying to kind of dampen down that. But, having the boss point the finger at the drivers.
I know.
When maybe, is that a deflection? I mean, aren't the drivers trying their best?
Well, I think it's fair what they're saying. They're critical of the team and the performance of the car. And that's their job. Their job is to, drive it as fast as they possibly can, but to drive it as fast as they possibly can to win races and win a championship, you need a good car. So that's why you have to sometimes be a little bit vocal to say we need to change a few things to make this thing work, because at the moment we are still struggling when the expectations of Ferrari are so big. So I think for John to come out there and try and almost tell the drivers to shut up is probably not a beneficial thing, because I think it only sort of makes it a little bit more difficult for the drivers in that environment, because their job is to be critical of the team.
Yes, their job. That is the point. I mean, I've got a little story about being critical, which I'd like to lob in.
Another one,
which is when I first tested with Williams. I got a chance to drive the new Newey car, and we went to the short circuit Silverstone, and I went and did a few laps, and I think it was my first time in the proper car. And Patrick Head said to me when I came in, he said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "It's brilliant." And he said, "We were hoping you'd be rather more critical." In other words, they can't make any progress unless you find some faults in it. You can't just sit there and go, "It's brilliant." But that only happened once.
Right. Okay. Yes, you learned from that one.
Flag them off after that.
But that is interesting, because that's what Patrick needs to be able to improve upon what you had in when you were driving the car. So you're right. You said it was fantastic, but you would have been critical during that test and said, we need to do this or find this or a bit of understeer, a bit of oversteer, or whatever it might be.
The question is always, how do we go fast?
How to go fast.
So in other words, if you got the perfect car, then it's very difficult to say.
If you'd said it's fantastic and gone home, yes, that would have been a slightly different scenario.
That's what Nigel Mansell did.
Oh yeah, well that's very Nigel. Yeah, Nigel would be very do that.
Not this one, aren't they?
That's what you were there for.
But again, we're talking about Ferraris.
Yeah.
In this situation, there is clearly it's not been a great season for them. No. Their hopes and expectations have rather been for, and also Lewis's fanfare arrival. The shares went up when he announced he was going to drive for Ferrari, and now they've gone down again.
Sure.
And
expectations were high. They've gone down with it.
Yeah. Well. So I mean, his this is a guy whose job will be to look at the results for the company.
Sure.
And share price matters. If he's doing a good job where things are going well, but we're talking about the car company as well. So the Ferrari road car company, but all the branding depends on it's interlinked with their image as a successful team, and they've not had enough success for all the investment And so really I think he must be under a bit of pressure somewhere, or feeling the heat a bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's decided to say something. I think it was ill-advised, because I don't think that's helpful.
No, I don't. No, it's not. No, the drivers haven't got the best equipment. No, so is that their fault for being outspoken about? No, it's not. The problem is it's back at the factory, unfortunately, where the engineers haven't been able to produce the goods.
The mechanics
for the drivers
were great.
Yes,
he said they're winning world championships, so the mechanics are
they're
okay.
But the drivers not. But they're not the ones who designed the car, I don't believe.
No.
So no, exactly. So
well, who does design it?
Huh? They're the ones that I think we could have done a better job in many respects. Well, that was a bit harsh. But it's the team around the drivers that haven't been able to produce the car that the drivers need. If the drivers had the car, they wouldn't be commenting in that way.
Isn't that Fred Vasseur's job then, to get the performance? So why did he not?
Yeah, well, there you go.
Mention Fred.
Precisely that. Yeah.
Anyway, listen, that's a little bit of a flurry of dissatisfaction, sort of, in Ferrari. And of course, if Ferrari is such a huge story every time. They often say that Formula One is Ferrari, or Bernie used to say Formula One is Ferrari and Ferrari is Formula One. There's no way of extricating the two things, but there are two religions in Italy, as we know. Yeah. Catholicism and Ferrari. Ferrariism,
Indeed.
Yes. Maybe AC Milan, I don't know. But, they're huge and so important to that country. And so it's not like any other team. But it's a point of discussion that people will be like, well, how's the weather today? Oh, it's not good. How's the government? Yeah, it's maybe this. How's Ferrari? That is the conversation in Italy. It
is. I know. It always has done. Has done that way. It's always been that way. It's great that it still has that draw, that pull, because people around the world love Ferrari and seeing them on a racetrack. But it's been 2007, I think, was it, Kimi winning the world championship? That was the last time.
Yes, shocking.
The last time.
Yeah, long time.
Scary. And I haven't even really. They were close, sort of, a little bit with Sebastian and Fernando, and then it sort of did its normal decline, and it's just never really bounced back. I've had a couple of showings of good speed over the years, but it's never really been complete enough. And I don't know why. It's like Fred Vasseur. I like Fred. I think Fred's a very, very smart man, smart businessman. He's always been very successful in his racing businesses that he's had. But this one is such a tough nut to crack. And the biggest thing I always think is difficult for Ferrari is how you draw the very, very best people to Italy. There was always talk about Adrian, and that just wasn't for him. And it never worked out. So that just, again, it's a sign. No. And
Ross Brawn is
that was a slightly different. Yeah.
And of course, Niki Lauda here. We have Niki as well, who was able to talk directly to Enzo.
Yes.
And say exactly what he thought.
Yeah.
And do you know the story about, I think it was, I can't remember who it was. He was a Piccini or something like that. Yeah. Not Puccini, Piccini. Piccinini. Anyway, one of the Ferrari people were translating between Enzo and Niki when he first went there and first drove for Ferrari. and Niki, in his pithy way, said, the car is, can I say the word? The car is shit. Anyway, the car is shit. And so the guy now has the job of translating to Enzo
Get that.
the feedback. And goes and tells Enzo, and then Enzo tells him a question for Niki. So he goes back to Niki and he says, Il commendatore, he's asking, how shit? Which is the story I heard.
Very good. Very
but of course, in other words, it's no good. You need to be a little bit more, detailed in your analysis than that. But of course, he famously worked with Enzo and managed to.
Well, how critical was Niki?
But Lewis was doing all this, making all these noises about having discussions, and he's trying to. I got the impression that Lewis was in there with the management, sort of saying, oh, "This is not working the way it needs to work. These things can be improved."
Yeah.
So to have gone to the effort to try and make the right changes or get things moving in the right direction and change maybe the culture coming from Mercedes and with his insights there.
Well. Yeah.
And now going to Ferrari and saying, well, one or two things could be better.
Yeah.
To now be told they need to shut up.
Shut up.
Is a little harsh, perhaps. But
I think it's very harsh. And with the experience that mainly Lewis, because Lewis is the one who's won the world championships with Mercedes and with McLaren, he knows how those teams work. and they work in a very, very methodical way. And there's always this, and it's horrible because there's always this situation at Ferrari. It's just nothing seems to go to. The puzzles are, the pieces are all there, but they're never from the same box.
Have you ever been to Maranello?
Yes. Yeah.
And you realise that, I mean, Fiorano as well. You realise
the whole thing. Yeah, sure.
There's so many people's lives depend on this thing.
No, sure. Well, if you do the car company survives brilliantly. It still has that wonderful, as I said before, the passion around the world. That still works. It's the racing part that has sort of had good times and bad times. And in more recent times, it's been more bad times. And it's just never been able to click. But I think that goes back to my original comment of where it's trying to attract the best, the very, very best. And it hasn't attracted even the very best of those doing.
I think a lot of people look at it as askance a little bit. If you get offered an opportunity to Ferrari, of course, it's very tempting to go, I want to go and do that. But you have to think carefully because it's very complicated.
I'm going to throw this at you. I'm going to throw this one at you. Would you have ever driven for a Ferrari in your time?
Well,
F1? Would it have been a choice or your want?
I can imagine there might be situations. I mean, I had basically a fundamental rule, which was I want to be in the best car, with the best chance of success.
Same as me.
So, if it had been one of the best cars that
so
that's the only trouble is.
So that's a no then.
Well,
unfortunately, in that period,
I turned them down.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, but anyway, that's because I needed to drive, and Jean Todt said, "Come and have a word, and we'll talk about it loosely."
Yeah.
And so I did go to Italy, and I met him at a house. I don't think it was his house where he worked from.
Yeah.
And he said, you'd have to be number 2 to Michael.
Okay.
Which of course was
So that went down really well, I guess, for you. Yeah.
That was reasons for turning down this very generous.
No. Really. God, what a
is
shock!
That an offer you? It's not an offer you can't refuse, is it? That one. It's an offer you have to refuse.
Well, Nigel did. Nigel went there when he was number 2 to Alan.
I mean, maybe I should have done it. Maybe I should have just gone. Now you're making me regret that decision.
No, well,
anyway, it doesn't matter because
you didn't analyse it.
Someone asked Jean Todt that years ago, and he denied I ever went and spoke with him. So he actually, I must have dreamt it.
Well, that would be that would not be a surprise of Jean
to
say that. So anyway, yes, so big sort of little issues at Ferrari itself. But the drivers I think the drivers will just carry on doing what they're doing. They will be critical because they have to be critical, and that's the only way you move things forward.
I think is Charles getting married? Did I see on a social level? I think he's announced an engagement or something.
Oh, I think there you go. Maybe
it's a bit. This is a bit like the Beatles, isn't it? It's like the Beatles when they said they were getting married. All the girls are going, "Oh no!" And so anyway, he's
understandable.
Big, yeah, he's obviously looking ahead to his future now. So
yeah, but what's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that at all. If that makes him happier and even more complete, that only makes him better.
Right then, what else have we got?
Well, let's do something slightly different. Questions. We're going to have some questions that have been thrown our way, and we're going to do our very best to answer them, honestly.
Well, we couldn't have done the questions for our first show because no one had heard us.
Very, very, very true, and hopefully there are a couple more on board this time around. So, yeah, first question is...
Yes, all of these questions were submitted by the Race Members Club on Patreon. So just a quick plug before we go into them. If you'd like to join the Race Members Club on Patreon and enjoy ad-free listening and loads of bonus podcasts and other stuff besides, head to patreon.com/therace to sign up. First question. And this one comes from Rachel Hillman. What is your favourite overtake of your careers?
And in case you're wondering, we ought to say that is the disembodied voice of Johnny Reynolds, who is the producer of the show.
Yeah.
So you can't see him, but there he is. And nicely read out.
Voice,
so the best overtakes. Johnny, you go first.
No. I want you to go first because mine's really, really, really good. But yours is probably quite as good. It's not quite so good.
Go on, overtake.
Your best overtake. Go on, your best overtake.
All right, I got two. Right.
2.
Can I do 2?
Yes, go ahead.
So it's not very significant, but it was brilliant. Was an overtake.
So much.
I overtook Heinz-Harald Frentzen. I took a massive lunge going into the chicane on the last lap, I think it was, at Suzuka, in 1998, end of 98.
Okay.
He was coming to the team the following year.
Yeah.
And he just, there's that weird kind of twist to that entry. It's not straight.
Not
and it's got a
straight.
little bumpy and there's a little bit more room on the inside. And you realise, anyway, I'd coming at him and I got a good toe off of 130R and I'm coming at him and I thought I was a long way back. I just thought, oh, fuck it. So, no, I can't say that.
Go on, Carrie, you said it.
So I blooped.
Excuse me, viewers.
After, that was a technical term.
Disgraceful.
So anyway, I just went, I've got this, right? So I just really late and I just slithered and I just saw him starting to come and I got through in true official style. I had my wheels well past his mirror. not that we had that rule.
All locked up. Then.
And I
All
just
locked
took a
up.
really deep dive and I've slipped through. And it actually got picked up by one of the journalists who said that move you did on Frentzen was awesome. So it was a brilliant deep late
What position
breaker.
were we going for?
Oh, 9th or something.
One of those good ones. Okay.
It was a world-shatteringly important result.
Okay.
Anyway, life-changing.
Second one. I hope it's
second
better.
one-
I hope it's better. Go on.
It's fantastic. It's brilliant. I overtook Michael Schumacher going to turn 1 in Hungary in a
yes.
and he was in a Ferrari.
Okay. Yes, yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. Okay.
That was good.
No, that's not bad. Yeah, happy with that one. Yeah,
It was a sitting duck, by the way.
exactly.
But,
Did you win that one as well?
well, I nearly did.
I know. I
nearly
know you did. I know.
The second wasn't bad, but it was
Yeah.
a good run. But anyway, the whole point was, he had everything to lose and I had nothing to lose. One of those good ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on then.
Like that one.
Let's hear it.
Well, mine's Silverstone. And it's Silverstone. So we go through the old bridge corner, through the left and then into Brooklands. That little short shoot. And it was one of
I know
those.
that one.
Yeah. And as I went through, I can't remember what the left is called. What's the first left?
That was Luffield or something.
Luffield, no, Luffield's later, isn't it?
No,
I forgot what it's called. It's
Luffield.
terrible. Anyway, the first left-hander. Is it Priory? It could be Priory.
Thank you very
Anyway,
much.
yes, it's the left-hander before Brooklands. And I
corner
made
expert.
this fantastic dive, quite tight, going into Brooklyn itself. And I overtook Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher going into that corner. It
Weren't we in
was
the gravel?
immense. You were in the gravel at that time. Yes.
That's still brilliant.
It does. It was an overtake. You still had your helmet on. You were still in the car. It
You
was a
swine.
brilliant. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you know what it was? Why it happened? Mind games. Put pressure on the drivers ahead.
All right,
That's how that
you
one
dare
came
me
up.
up like a kipper there.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. That is.
Yes. Other than that,
I don't trust you anymore.
No, I think no. The only one I suppose I can remember was in Adelaide '91 when it was absolutely tipping it down.
Right.
And Mika Hakkinen was my teammate, and I made a good move on Mika through the first chicane in the right hander, and I went round the outside of him,
Yeah.
round there, and I was lapping him. So I was like, I'll take that one, yes.
Lapper.
And that's about it,
Herbert.
because I've got more stories about being overtaken than I have been overtaking.
No, that's not true. No,
it's
you're a
I
front
tried.
runner. You're a Grand Prix winning driver.
I think very much.
So
So. No, but that's good. Yeah, but the Michael one in the Arrows especially, yes. You were robbed that day. Robbed.
the one, but anyway, the overtake. I hope we answer that question because we've gone off at the
Anyway.
Typically, we have not stayed on
conversation.
track. In fact, Johnny's given a story of an overtake where where the person he overtook,
No one on track. Not
weren't on the track
No,
either.
exactly. I know. Well, it doesn't matter.
You start to say
Doesn't
stay
matter.
on track
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. No, that's
So,
what you
I
should have done.
think
That's what
they
you should have
meant.
done.
I think that our listeners meant on track overtake. So I'm disallowing that.
Okay, so the next question comes from Adam B. Would you rather be racing in today's cars / era, or are you glad you raced when you did?
So the question, so basically racing in today's car, I don't want to race these cars.
No, it's funny.
Yeah.
I like the brutalness of the era that we raced in. No power steering. Damn tough things to drive. So there was a big physical element to it. The mental side, I think, was good as well. It was more basic, and probably the best thing I liked in that era. We had to work out what was going on underneath us.
Yeah.
We had to work out how the tyre was responding. We had to respond to how the tyre was in a good way or a bad way. And I had fun actually trying to work all that out, especially in a race situation. I'd hate it being told what to do, as they are nowadays. And sometimes the pace that they actually race is very, very low because that's better for the strategy. But I'd rather the driver work out what he needs to do. And because of that, I think I'd still prefer the era that I was in. These cars are mighty. They are so quick visually. They are unbelievably fast. But I'm just not so sure. I'd rather the drivers and the engineers do everything they want to do on a Friday, everything they want to do on a Saturday, and on Sunday they go, that's the best we have been able to produce. Over to you guys for Sunday.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you there. I think I was very happy to have driven when I did. I don't think I would have wanted to drive much earlier than that. Although I still think the ground effect cars, although they were incredibly dangerous, they looked like they were quite fun to race. Because I actually drove one of the early Williamses around the Saudi track.
Oh, okay. With the skirts on?
With the old skirt. Had skirts. It didn't have
the full skirts. Okay.
No, but it was, the old DFE is quite a nice little motor. But the V10 Renault engine that I had was absolutely brilliant. And and also, as you said, it's simple. And I thought that I had something to give in terms of how I understood setup and what I wanted to do with the car in order to get the best out of the tyres and so forth. And those are my little skill sets. Those are my special little toolbox that I had. Yeah,
we were the computer, giving the information to the engineers and the designers. They had to listen to us, didn't they?
Yeah.
To
as I was
make
leaving,
the car better.
By 99, my last year, and everyone, it was starting to come in where the engineers started to say, we're going to set up the car according to what we see on the data. And I remember thinking to myself, well, what do I do? Because I thought, well, that's the end of that then.
And that was a fun part,
and now,
actually, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to get all the information, but the trouble is, you have Oscar Piastri in Brazil coming on the radio and going, what's the plan? And he doesn't even know what do you want me to do? Yeah. It's not really a question that I want to hear coming from a racing driver.
No, and that's exactly what
and that's not criticism Oscar. It's a general observation about the sport.
I know, but I get from an engineer's point of view why they do what they do, because they're trying to almost get perfection. Unfortunately, perfection is not always a good thing for racing, but I still want the driver to have the driver element being more at the fore.
The thing is, there's so much invested, millions of pounds every year spent, the investment. So the teams always see it from the point of view that we cannot afford to be taking any chances. Of course, they want everything covered, but that does make it difficult to extract anything else. But I mean, I think the comment that came from Kimi Räikkönen famously, where he said, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing, got such a massive round of applause. Yeah. Because people want to think that the driver should be applauded for his work.
It's the wow factor. Yeah. The driver's showing us, wow, I couldn't do that. Wow, that was unbelievable. Yes.
It's still there, but it's
still there.
It's reduced by the amount of work that is done from outside. Yeah. So I'm happy. To answer the question, I'm
long-winded, but
also it's far too complicated for me as well, and I would be spending most of my time confused.
Well, you wouldn't have to be, because they just tell you what to do.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to think about it.
I like it like that.
Yeah, there you go. See.
Maybe you're right.
Should we take one more question?
Let's have one more. Yeah, one more.
This one is from Daryl Finch, and it's primarily targeted towards you, Johnny. I'm interested to hear what the answer is to this. Sorry if this has been discussed ad nauseum in the past, but Johnny, the Fernando Alonso incident, from the perspective of a journalist / broadcaster and someone trying to be professional, how difficult is it to have someone accost you like that on live TV? And a slight follow-up question, and Damon, have you ever incurred the wrath of any former drivers or other F1 personnel as part of your broadcasting career?
Yes. So were you going to ask me the last bit first? So, okay, no, I've never had that, Johnny. You've had it. only you have been wroth by a former driver a driver.
A world champion.
I mean, I've been told when I was racing, I had René Arnoux came up to me because I crashed into one of his drivers. Or no, I didn't crash into it. Anyway, I did something. And he'd been managing a driver in 3000. He came up to me and he said, "You're the worst driver I've ever seen in my life." But I thought from René Arnoux coming from him, I thought that was quite.
I thought that was quite a very big compliment. Yeah. he's a good guy.
But that
wasn't on that particular comment, but he's a very good
But I wasn't
guy.
on TV, so specifically this is asking about
this was
live TV.
Yes. No. Well, it's like anything. I was there to do a job. I was there to be.
Do we need to tell
honest.
people who aren't familiar with what we're talking
yes,
about?
I think that's probably the easiest way of doing it. And it was basically, it started, I remember, in Japan, and it was when it was the GP2 engine, and he was sort of giving it real big, slagging off over the radio,
yes,
especially that it was in Japan as well, home of the Honda, when Honda was struggling in the McLaren. And I think after the race, I was saying he's very toxic, and he always has been with the teams that he's been
toxic's a strong word.
With. Yeah, well, he is, and I totally have a lot of respect for what he does on the racetrack. You know, he's awesome what he does. He should have had more world championships than he's got.
Yeah. You're like,
and through good, I hope so. Yes. Through probably decisions that he's made that he's gone just to the wrong place at the wrong time. That sort of happens in life, but he's still driving brilliantly today. He's still got that way of doing it. So anyway, so then Bahrain, I think it was, and it was still sort of going on. I think I mentioned that toxic word once again, and he was obviously watching it in the hospitality unit. And so then he came out, and I was with Rachel.
Yeah.
And Rachel was talking. They said he's coming. I can see Fernando coming. So this is live.
Rachel Brooks from
Sky. Rachel Brooks from Sky. So he comes over and he just comes straight in, and I shook his hand.
Yeah.
And then he basically sort of said, you don't really know what you're talking about because you were never world champion. And then he basically just walked off.
Well, he was right about not being a world champion.
He got that bit absolutely spot on. Yes.
But you have a right to an opinion anyway. So it was a bit of but he did it live on.
He did it live on there.
But see, that's the great thing about live TV.
Yes,
because that's now being recorded for all time.
Exactly.
It's TV gold.
Yeah, and I get it. I get that when someone is having a little bit of a dig at you because of what's happening within the environment that he is in, and being that we both know when there are good times in a team and there are bad times in a team. But he was very vocal about the team and slagging the team off effectively. So I just thought, no, that's not right. There's a time and a place for doing that. It's not over the radio. You do it when you're with your engineers or back at the factory, because when you're doing it over the radio, there's a lot of young ladies and young men back at the factory working very, very hard to try and make that
and
car go as quick as it possibly could. Well, I just don't think it's the right thing to do. And but I understand why he came up to me in the way that he did. Do I regret saying what I said? No, I don't. I still feel, exactly the same now, because I do respect what he does on the racetrack as well.
I wonder what he'd say now. But do you think that he's actually carried on, extended his career just to spite you, Johnny? In other words, he's not giving up.
He's done it really, really poorly, because it really hasn't affected me one way or the other, to be perfectly honest. So no,
he's had to keep going.
He's never allowed to keep going,
because otherwise you'd be right.
Well, and I did see him at Silverstone a couple of years ago, and that was when I was a steward, strangely enough, in Australia. Remember when the last lap with George, when George sort of rolled over on the last lap, and I was the steward, and the stewards, the four of us, decided that he got a penalty, and he was not very happy about that. And I saw him at Silverstone that year, and I hadn't seen him since then. So I thought, and I was outside Sauber, he was just next door with a couple of friends, and I thought, I'll say hi. So I went and stuck my arm out. And he just completely blanked me, turned away. And then all he said to me, never ever looked me in the eye, and he says, "You don't have to worry, I'm not going to be here much longer." He lied. He lied to me, because he's still there. And like you said, he's still trying to get under my skin. So yeah, it's one of those difficult situations that it's awkward between us, which is very unfortunate. I just said, I don't have any malice towards him in any way. But he never forgets certain instances. It's not just what's happened with me. There's a lot of other instances that have happened that he hangs on to a lot of things that way.
I just want to thank Daryl, because for asking that question, because I've been watching you squirm
for the loss. I'm not squirming. Is this squirming? Oh, blimey. Not squirming one way or the other.
I think it was jolly unfair. And anyway, but it was TV gold.
On who? Yeah, on who?
It was unfair. It was unfair on you. But anyway, it was quite, I mean, you know, you did upset him by saying something.
I did upset.
But then you got to say something. I mean,
that's our job.
I don't think, well, put it this way, I've been critical of Max Verstappen for some things.
Yes,
and
so have I.
And I think
goes down well, doesn't it?
I never had him come up and say to me,
No.
You know.
No, it's very different.
I think he probably would do, but
no, it's very different. No,
we don't know what we're talking about, Johnny. That's why people love us.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We are always right. Not.
Good.
Yeah.
Any more? Or are we done?
No.
That's
okay. Well, I think that's about it then. So, well, that was fun. I enjoyed that again.
We can't get through it all. I mean, we're trying to stay on track, but every now and then we go off on a tangent. But it was great, good discussion, Johnny.
Yeah. No, I think it was good. Well, Formula One, it just seems to always gives us something to talk about.
We've got
great.
more to come, haven't we?
Yes.
Because by the time we come back to you, it will be after it's all over.
Yes.
Wow.
Quite literally, I know.
No idea.
No, we don't, and that's the good thing. So I think we're going to have a nice little discussion at the end of the championship year, see where we're at. And remember to like and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening or watching on.